So my name is Zhen. I'm currently a junior studying physics and biology with a health policy concentration through a program called Public Policy Research Scholars that you should all definitely check out if you are a freshman going to sophomore year. So during the summer of my freshman year, I interned at the Department of Treasury in the Office of Strategic Planning and Performance Improvement, which is under the Assistant Secretary of Management Department. So basically, you can think of it as an internal consultant for the Department of Treasury and determining how the Treasury could operate more efficiently, how we could go about managing the budget, dividing the budget across all the different departments of the Treasury, kind of larger scale projects I worked on. So one was on the new $10 bill. So I don't know if you heard last year they just announced like the new $20 bill and the $10 bill they're going to revise and feature women on it. So basically the Secretary of the Treasury, Jack Lew, came to our office and asked, what is public opinion on this? What do people want on the $10 bill? How do they want women to be potentially featured on it? So helping to collect surveys and helping to aggregate the information. Another major project I worked on was to ensure that the data Treasury used to make major decisions was accurate, and there was some system that they could use to make sure that the data was consistent, that, like I said, it was accurate, and there was some methodology, and I got to essentially take that on as my own project to look at over 100 performance measures and to come up with some type of framework to ensure it was consistent, accurate, etc. And then my last major project was to help make the offboarding process for HR. So when Treasury employees leave the office, make that system more standardized and more streamlined. And so that was working across the Treasury with HR, with security, with tech, with IT, and determining how to make this process more efficient. So those were my major term projects, but shorter term projects were basically just consulting with different areas of Treasury if they needed an area of help. So it was definitely good for me because I'm really interested in the intersection of policy and business. For me, it was a really interesting way to be able to get exposure to different parts of Treasury, be able to work on the consulting side of it while also gaining a good perspective on policy because all the meetings we attended were policy-based.
I worked in the Division of Economic and Risk Analysis. What we basically did was do cost-benefit analysis and other kind of econometric analyses of different SEC rules and regulations. So some of you may have heard of Dodd-Frank, the financial reform law that was passed under President Obama. The way that a lot of legislating works in Congress is Congress will pass a law directing agencies or commissions to go and write regulations. And so I was actually in the SEC as we were writing a lot of the Dodd-Frank regulations. And so the sort of legal side of the SEC would say, hey, you know, we have this sort of mandate from Congress to write a law about this. We want to get your perspective on what this would do and what kind of impact it would have on the financial sector. So a lot of what I did was working with data. I did a lot of work in like Python, Excel, R, Stata, those kind of different languages, doing a lot of data analysis. The coolest project we got to work on was to actually co-author an internal report with an SEC economist. We worked with a bunch of economists as kind of their like research assistants almost about basically a corporate governance rule that the SEC was considering at the time. It was a really interesting experience. I liked it because it wasn't super political. The SEC is an independent commission, which means that they have they don't actually have any like oversight from the White House or any. I mean, they have oversight, but they can't be. They don't directly report to the White House or any of the other government agencies. And so we had a lot of kind of autonomy to work outside the sort of realm of politics or be constrained by like partisanship. So it was pretty neat to be able to kind of put my head down and work on more kind of quantitative analytical stuff. And if anybody likes politics and also has an interest in math or statistics or economics, I would highly encourage you to look into one of those agencies that does a lot more kind of government analytical work because I thought it was a super rewarding experience.
Becker, I'm a senior at the college also. I studied political science, and the summer after junior year, worked at the Federal Trade Commission, which is an executive agency, a federal agency that's going to focus on antitrust law. I was in the Bureau of Competition, which is like examining mergers and antitrust concerns. So to the extent any of you are interested in policy, law, or kind of industry, there was an interesting nexus for all three of those. And so my role was called Honors Paralegal Intern, which is a fancy word for I was just a paralegal. assisting like the actual paralegals who were there on a 2-year rotation. And so my day-to-day looked a lot like meeting with case teams. So you'd be working directly with attorneys and then the paralegals who they hire directly out of college, and then other paralegal interns as well. And these case teams would range from maybe 4 or 5 people on average to, if you're in litigation, you have cases actually going to court, you're going to have really big case teams with like 40 or 50 attorneys and paralegals all working really hard on this. So day-to-day tasks would look like, you meet with your attorneys, you log in, check your emails, obviously, and then, it was a lot of working with legal software. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with LexisNexis or Westlaw. That's the way we look up cases, and then we would, a lot of times, put this into the case management software we would use, and then from there, if you're familiar with paralegal work, it's a lot of like coding and sorting, and day-to-day work is a lot of that. It's a lot of this, just reading through cases one by one. Through this internship, though, I did have some cool opportunities to do some research projects. So my attorneys would come to me and be like, "Hey Taylor, so we're doing this case on, I think I can talk about industries, on academic journals. We're doing an academic journal merger, and so we don't really know anything about that. So go learn everything you can, and like come back to us with like a brief on that."